Hello, everybody. My name is Douglas Block. I'm an author and depression counselor. Welcome to your live video chat here on a Sunday at noon in Portland, Oregon. I do these chats every Wednesday at 11 a.m., but I decided to do a spontaneous chat at noon right now because I just got this new used laptop, which I'm using. Hopefully, it has better sound than the last one I did, and I'm just seeing, testing it out. Hopefully, some people are tuning in. What is it, 3 o'clock East Coast time? Who knows what it is in Great Britain? I guess it's 8. Hey, Sim Kim says hi. All right, well, someone is tuning in. We got a couple more people in there, and I'll tell my first joke of the day. Anyway, anyway, nice to see you, Simon, again. We talked on during the last chat. I think it was on Wednesday. Let me know if you have any questions. And in the meantime, one of my good friends, Mark, just told me I was live. That was what that little alert was about. So I'm going to talk about my last video, which I think is really important in light of a very tragic event that has occurred in my life, not to me personally, but to someone I really care about. So the title of the video is called "Will This Depression, or Will These Bouts of Depression Ever End?" And I talk about the whole idea that depression is a chronic relapsing condition that is with you your whole life. People don't like to hear that. Uh, Thomas, would you consider yourself a success if your scrubs went down cured? Yeah, hi. Leanne says hi. Doug, well, nice setting, says Eunice, thank you. I'm sitting in my lounge chair, my recliner in the bedroom. So thank you for commenting on the setting. I'm very comfortable. The sun is out, by the way, in Portland, Oregon. It's going to be about 68 degrees today, October 15th, a beautiful day. My accountant's birthday. Happy birthday, Tom. Anyway, this whole idea about depression being a chronic relapsing condition, people don't want to hear that because they think they want to be able to get over it like a person has a chicken pox when they're young and they develop an immunity to the disease. I mean, you've never heard of anybody getting chicken pox when they're older, right? But unfortunately, like diabetes, like asthma, like heart disease, like addiction, these things do not go away. I'm a bit wobbly. That's because I'm moving. That's right. This is on my lap. Thank you. I need to basically get a more stable table. Thank you, Magda. I'll try not to be wobbly. What is your opinion on the MAOs for treatment-resistant depression? Says Mike B. Uh, I think they're really worth trying because of the fact that these are antidepressants that are not often used. They've been around for a long time. Nardil and Parnate are the two, and I've seen when nothing else works, when Prozac and Zoloft and Paxil and Effexor and Celexa and all the others and Wellbutrin don't work. I've seen people go on these MAOs and they get help. So King Stephen says hello, hello there too. So the point is you never know whether an antidepressant is going to work until you try it. So certainly it's worth trying if you none of the other antidepressants have worked. So MAOIs are a type of class of antidepressant that is not very well used today, but many psychiatrists still have them in their quote-unquote arsenal. So we had a gal in my Monday group. I run 2 support groups in Portland, Oregon, for any of you who live around here, Monday and Tuesday. And she had a pretty bad depression, was hospitalized for a while, but came to the group in November of 2016 and did better and better and better. And then in August of this year, a couple of months ago, she left feeling really good. Unfortunately, she went off her medication and she relapsed into a really bad psychosis. Chris O'Toole says, hello. Hello, Chris. Where are you from? I'm really sorry about this wobbling. This laptop is on my lap, and as I move, it wobbles. I need to get some sort of like a tray to put on next time. So bear with me. How should someone treat old wounds, says Eunice Allen, that are often due to present problems? I keep telling myself that things change, but ... Yeah, old wounds. Yeah, tell me about it. I'm 68. I'm still dealing with my childhood, right? That's what psychotherapy is for. So being in therapy long term is really important for someone who has uh, lifelong depression or has had wounds in the past. You just have to keep processing them and letting them go, doing forgiveness exercises if someone has hurt you in the past and you're holding on to the blame. There's a whole lot about releasing the old, but being in therapy. Mike B. Awesome. Thanks for the response. The food interactions and drug interactions are pretty scary to me. I might give it a shot. Yeah. Well, I know you cannot eat cheese and wine. Your diet is restricted, but it's not completely restricted. There are lots of things you can eat, like fruits and vegetables. I don't have the whole list, but you can look it up online. Talk to your pharmacist, talk to your psychiatrist. But yeah, don't worry about the food interactions because you can eliminate those foods and not use them. I've had one or two clients who have used the MAO inhibitors and they've been very successful. So don't worry about the food. Oh, Chris O'Toole from Ireland. Hey, O'Toole, not a Jewish name, right? By the way, speaking of which, I should tell a joke. So, in my book, Healing from Depression 12 Weeks to a Better Mood, for those of you who don't have it, shame on you, shame on you. You should have my book. And as I say that, the computer wobbles. Anyway, I talk about the 5 areas of basically, if I get my hand up there, yeah, 5 areas of treatment, of self-care activities: physical, mental, social, spiritual, and lifestyle habits. So the point being is that the best way to help yourself physically, the starting off point, is taking care of your body. That includes getting enough sleep, getting enough exercise, and eating right. So I've been trying to eat a healthier diet because I have long-term depression. But every time I try to eat healthy, a candy bar looks at me and snickers. Okay. Yes, Evelyn May. I'm glad you like that joke also. Every time I try to eat healthy, a candy bar looks at me and snickers. Now, those of you who live in India who might be tuning in, although it's kind of late, uh, here is a Snickers bar. Do I have it upside down? Nope, yes I do. Okay. So all you Americans know what Snickers is, right? I was talking to a client just this morning who loves his Snickers. Well, if you look in this crazy thing, if you're trying to lose weight, oh my God, 210 calories, 12 calories, 12 grams of fat, saturated fat 6 grams, sugar, oh my God, 21 grams. Help, help! All right, I'm not touching this. The chocolate factory hunter from India here, great. So anyway, yeah, eating healthy is really important. So let's go back to my story about this woman who fell into a relapse. It wasn't just depression. It wasn't just anxiety. It was psychosis. Now, those of you who don't know, a psychotic state is where a person loses touch with reality and has delusions. And the most serious thing about that is they don't actually think they're sick. They don't think they need help. They basically deny there's anything wrong, where a person who's anxious knows they need help and you're pacing back and forth, hitting yourself in the head. Of course you need help or you're depressed. I've been dealing struggling of cutting, says JK. Cutting soda. Okay. Yeah. LOL. Yeah. Well, that's a good idea. Mayor Bloomberg in New York City tried to make a law banning soda. It didn't get far because the soft drink industry was too powerful. Do you think Harvey Weinstein was depressed? And for those of you who don't know, he's a famous Hollywood producer. His films have won 80 Oscars. Can you believe it? I love his films, art films, and he was just thrown out of the Academy of Arts for sexually harassing women. I think what he has is a sex addiction. I don't think what he has. He has a sex addiction and addiction. And oftentimes what's going on behind that is depression. So you could be right. I'm not a psychiatrist, but that is often when people do any addiction, when they try to alter their mood through drugs or alcohol or gambling or shopping or sex, it's all about trying to change how they feel. And why would you change how you feel if you're feeling like $1,000,000? If you're feeling like on top of the world and everything's going well, why would you go out of your way to do a drug or a substance or a behavior to change your mood? You wouldn't. So obviously people who do drugs or substances or compulsive behaviors or act out are not feeling well. Do you think people get confused between situational depression and chronic depression, says Leanne? Well, if they are confused, I'll set them straight right now. It's very simple. A situational depression is just like it sounds. You are basically depressed because of the situation. You lose your job, you have conflict in your marriage, your son is not doing well in school, your daughter, or something like that. It depends on what's happening. It's an outside event. It's also called reactive depression. But chronic depression is something that I have. It's inside. You were born with it. It's a temperamental thing. It's a biochemical thing. And that people can have a wife, a husband, 3 kids, everything on the outside you would think they would need, and they get depressed. That's endogenous or chronic depression. What is your advice to beat up existential obsessions, Ramon? You have to tell me what those are. But any obsessions you have, you can deal with a drug called a medication called Luvox, Luvox. I'll type it right here. A lot of my Clients who have obsessive behaviors or thoughts use that drug. If I can basically type it here, well, maybe I can't. Anyway, it's spelled LUVOX. You can try that, or you can try working with your mind with cognitive behavioral therapy. How do you deal with lack of energy, says King Stephen. Like typing is too much to do right now. Well, that because you're really depressed, right? Uh, the lack of energy is because you have depression. But you know what you should do? Go outside and try to walk just one block. Just try to walk one block or two. And that a little bit will get your energy up a tad. Maybe three the next day, four. Force yourself to go out and become active if you can. That's the best thing you can do with depression if you can do it. Otherwise, definitely, get treatment, get medication, and get help. Um, what are your thoughts on loners? Well, there's a very famous song by Barbra Streisand, who is a very famous singer in the United States, from a very famous play called Funny Girl, and it goes, "People who need people are the luckiest people in the world." So I think we are meant to connect with one another. We're mammals. We need others. So loners, I think, they don't need as much contact as extroverts, but they need something. Um, why did I just go offline? No, hold on for a second. Let me check something on the stream is continuing. Well, we must have gotten somehow interrupted. I'm not quite sure how, but anyway, that's weird. Anyway, I'm glad we're resuming now. So yeah, so um, Tyler says I've just been diagnosed with. Let me see this over here. With thought disorder, schizophrenia. Are you able to explain this to me? Well, I said it earlier. It's a process. It's a problem in the brain where the dopamine is gone awry, and you basically have these things like delusions, paranoia. Your thinking is not quite right, but you should talk to your psychiatrist, your nurse practitioner about that because that is really, really important to get a handle on. Schizophrenia can be really, really disabling, and you don't want it to get the better of you very much. So um, I would definitely get some help as soon as you can with the thought disorder. Usually, it has to be treated with medication, unfortunately, because it's something that you just can't do with lifestyle alone. Although certain people have done so, but yeah, schizophrenia is a very tough condition, but it can be treated. I know people who live with it, and yeah, so schizophrenia is a thought disorder. The thinking is affected. There's lack of contact with reality. There's delusions. It's not your fault. It's a biochemical thing, and you should basically just be okay with that and don't put yourself down or blame yourself because you have schizophrenia. Patty Brady says, "Hello, Douglas. Another nice Jewish boy from somewhere. No, you must be Irish. Anyway, nice to see you, Patty." And King Stephen says, "I'm depressed because I'm sick most of the month. I've had 2 great days. After that, I'm back in bed." King Stephen, do you mean physically sick? Because if you're physically sick, it's very easy to get depressed. By the way, I apologize about the moving of the screen. I really do. I'm sitting in this beautiful recliner chair, which I paid a pretty penny for. It's on my lap, and as I move up and down, there's a slight screen moving. That will not be the case on Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific time. I'm going to have some sort of a table here. So thank you for tolerating this. Mike V says, "Do you have maintenance ECT sessions, or was your ECT results long lasting?" Excellent, excellent question. Electroconvulsive therapy, by the way, is a very radical and sometimes controversial process where you get grand mal seizures induced in your brain, and somehow that reboots the brain, boots the brain chemistry, the brain soup, the chemical soup of the brain. And I got it in about a year and a half ago, and it helped me come out of a really bad depression. And sometimes people need to get maintenance every month if they relapse. I've been very fortunate. The ECT is held for actually since January of 2016. We're in October, so 20 months. So I cross my fingers every day that this is going to keep continuing. But no, I haven't had to have maintenance ECT, but I have a client from my group who does have it once a month because he needs it. So it all depends on the person. But he says ECT was a game changer, but he needs to get it once a month. So that happens with some people. Chocolate Factory Hunter. I heard people say schizophrenia is just a made-up disease to cover the influence No, no, no. It's nothing about angels and demons. That's ignorant. That is so ignorant. That's like 1/3 of people in Nigeria think that depression is caused by demonic possession. It is not caused by demonic possession. Depression is not caused by that. It's a brain disorder. It's a brain disease, and the same thing with schizophrenia. Has nothing to do with angels or devils. Um, EBD 100. Douglas, your videos have helped me tremendously in the past. I want you to know that I appreciate it. Good luck from Scotland. Damn, I've got a lot of people who tune in from Scotland. Well, guess what? Douglas is a Scottish name. It means the black stream. That's why I'm wearing black, my favorite color. Sorry about the shaky screen. Anyway, yes, thank you from Scotland. I lived there in 1982, went to a place called Finhorn, a spiritual community. I love Scotland. We love Scotland. Oregon is like Scotland. Green, green, green. Um, yeah, Leon says schizophrenia is not made up. My father's friend had it. Yeah, not made up at all. Helen Lemus. Hi, Helen. I don't know where you writing from. Doug, what is the number one way to start thinking like an optimist to begin to raise your self-esteem? That's an excellent question. I have a chapter in my book, Thinking Like an Optimist. If you send me your email, if you send it to douglasblock@gmail.com, I will send you that chapter for free. But basically, it has to do with realizing that in any given situation, it's not what happens to you, it's how you interpret the situation or how you respond to it. So if it rains in Oregon, someone can be depressed about it, but someone else can say, hey, that means there's snow in the mountains. I can go skiing. So being optimist means trying to put the most positive frame on any situation and seeing the good because it's always there if you look hard enough. Although when you're really depressed, you can't be optimistic because your brain is too deranged. So don't feel guilty if you're depressed and you can't think a positive thought. That's because of what's going on in your brain, not because that you failed or anything. Um, Helen Lemus is calling from Reno. Hey, Helen. Nice to hear from you. I hear it's probably a bit drier and hotter in Reno than here. JK says I have social deficits. I'm not quite sure what that means. Um, let me go find it. Hard to tell if they're Asperger's or anxiety based. Yeah. Well, you should go to a good psychologist, JK, to see if it is Asperger's. I have Asperger's, by the way. And was anxious as a child, so they do overlap. But either case, you can cope because Asperger's is a treatable and very minor condition. There's a lot of really high functioning people with Asperger's and do quite well. So, but go get help with your anxiety. I have a new video coming up on exercise and the healing of anxiety, and I have a video called "How to Rewire Your Anxious Brain." Check it out on my channel; it would really be helpful. Um, So what does King Stephen say? Hold on for 1 second. I got to go see. I thought this. I'm trying. There we are. Okay. I mean, I only have a tumor that gave me free ticket to hormonal balance, train where my testosterone was low. Wow. Well, if you have a brain tumor, you have a right to be feeling bad. Uh, oh, I'm sorry, I was having trouble with connection. It's schizophreniform, not schizophrenia, says Tyler. I've never heard of schizophreniform, so I don't really know what that is. So I'll look it up afterwards. So I don't really have a comment to make on that because I don't know that term. If anybody knows it, feel free to type in. Ann Ritchie, God, I've heard of you. Name strikes a bell. Question from Ann. After time, will positive thinking change the structure of your brain, and will it train you to think positively automatically? Yes. Cognitive behavioral therapy changes the brain as much as antidepressants. It creates new grooves in the brain, new grooves, new ways of thinking, new neuronal connections, and it does change your brain physically when you think differently. That's the miracle of cognitive behavioral therapy, or DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, which is the only treatment that really works for people who have borderline personality disorder. So yes, very good point. Two ways to change your brain: medication, exercise, physiological things. If you have anxiety, you can hold your breath and put it in cold water, or changing your thinking through CBT. Very powerful way to do it. And yes, over time, I would say that I am much more optimistic now than I was 30, 40 years ago because of all the training I've done. But it's been a difficult road, especially when you are predisposed to think negatively. Jay says, I'm on antidepressants. Notice a huge difference when I forget to take it even once. Is that common or an effect I'm imagining? Well, you're not imagining it. I know people when they miss their medication for a day or so, it does make a huge difference. And but other people can do it. It doesn't matter. So it's everything is so individualistic with medications. But yeah, I'm glad it's helping. I'm glad, Jay, that the antidepressant is actually making a difference in your life because for a lot of people, antidepressants don't work. Um, by the way, how's the sound here? I haven't, when I did my last video, the sound was really poor. I just want to know if you guys can hear me okay without having to strain. Leanne says, I find change very hard. A therapist told me that everyone can. I don't see a therapist anymore, so I try to find my own ways to cope. Everybody, Leanne, finds change hard. It is the human condition to want things to stay the same. It's stressful for everybody, so don't think you're the only one who does this. Tyler Durden says the sound is good. Thank you, Tyler. I really appreciate that feedback. Um, oh, somebody says something about diagnosed with hypertension. Uh, oh, King Stevens, my estrogen is high, on my growth hormone is very low. I was recently diagnosed with hypertension. Yeah, fun times you've asked me. Well, hypertension can be controlled through diet and exercise. But yes, having physical conditions definitely will affect your mental state. There's no question about it. Let's see what's going on here. We're about halfway through. This is going to be about a 45-minute chat on a Sunday. I'm glad some of you are around tuning in. Um, Leanne says, borderline personality disorder is not fun. Can't find anybody to treat me. Oh, there are people who will treat you, Leanne, and definitely do a DBT course. That's the best way to do it. JK says, my therapist has said about my social anxiety, I actually need to have more negative situations to know I can deal with them. Well, that's true, but take it in small bites. You don't want to overwhelm yourself. Um, hey, Helen Loomis says, sounds great. Thank you, Helen. And yeah, thank you so much. I'm really going, by the way, you guys, I am going for one of my bike rides this afternoon. That's what I love to do when I am done with a session with a client or a writing session. Exercise, it's so good at resetting the brain and helping you feel better and think better. So yeah, I recommend exercise to everybody. I've made a number of videos. So let's go back to my story earlier about my client who had a psychotic break and doesn't think she needs help. Now what are we going to do, right? It's very, very difficult when people are in those situations. Sometimes they have to be forced to go to the hospital. It's not easy. So I never would have thought this would have happened. I never would have thought I would have had another depression after 18 or 19 years. So it's very important to maintain your recovery tools that we teach on this channel and you learn elsewhere and not to take your mental health for granted. Do you have a favorite movie that depicts mental illness? Mine is American Beauty or The Fight Club. I also think Spotless is great. Well, Spotless Mind. Yes, I wish I could see that movie. I hear it's really good. But I like uh, the biography of John Nash. That's called A Beautiful Mind. Won 3 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor for Russell Crowe. There's also a movie that came out in 1997 called Shine, about a brilliant pianist who suffered from schizophrenia, where Jeffrey Rush won an Academy Award. So my 2 favorite movies about mental illness are A Beautiful Mind and the movie Shine. Hey, you guys, let me know if you've seen this movie. Dorothy, hey, it's nice to see you again. Does mindfulness meditation retrain your brain? Yes, it does. Sounds perfect. Oh, the sound is perfect. It's blowing a gall here in central Scotland. Another hurricane is on its way. Sorry to hear about your friend. Yeah. Hey, Dorothy, you should check with the other person who's basically from Scotland. Mike Borden. Hey, Doug, I believe one of the first questions I ever asked you, you helped me out of my head about obsessions shifting when depressed. Nature, and spending time with people, not isolating, very helpful. Yeah. When you're caught in your own mind like this and you can't get out of it, change the scenery, get out, get walking, get interacting, go to the store, say hello to the cashier, um, hang out with a friend, get out of your head by focusing on other things. My favorite video that I've made, or one of my most popular videos, my second most popular video ever, is called How to Stop Ruminating. I find it quite ironic that it's so popular because when I made the video, I was in the middle of a depressive episode and I was ruminating all the time. So I guess I guess it takes one to know one. So yeah, to get out of ruminating, refocus your attention on the outside. A Beautiful Mind is great, says Tyler. Thank you. And Leanne says numb, N-U-M-B, is good too. I don't know what numb means. Uh, for psychotic depression, it's okay to have ECT, says Simon KH. Yes, a lot. Hey, you're a genius, Simon, because my mother, at the age of 79, one day my father came to pick her up at the swimming pool in the retirement home in Florida, and she said, I'm chilled. The next thing you knew it, she went into a psychotic depression. She was obsessed with the cicadas coming out at night. She stopped eating. She stopped sleeping. She started imagining things, and she had a major psychotic breakdown at the age of 79. They put her in the hospital in the geriatric ward. They gave her electroconvulsive therapy. She comes home 3 weeks later and says, Hi, Doug. What are we going to have for dinner? Do you want me to make you your favorite meal, spaghetti and meatballs? Completely snapped out of it through ECT, almost like being raised from the dead. Again, sorry about the shaking of the screen. Zip Move, good sound and information. I'm about to be treated with ECT mainly because I haven't been able to reduce the depression even on meds which don't work. I'm getting disappointed. Yeah, disappointed is a mild way to put it. Of course you're disappointed. You're disheartened. You're suffering and these medications aren't working. You're getting discouraged. You're getting hopeless. Um, yeah. So ECT is often called the method of last resort, and it really is. And so I wish you the best. It's normally 9 to 12 treatments. Don't give up if you're not feeling very much better after 6 or 7. I didn't really start feeling until 8, and there's a very famous guy named Sherlin Newland, a famous surgeon. He didn't start feeling until he got 20. They don't do that anymore, I don't think, but you will feel an effect at least 80 to 90% of the time. People get better on ECT. Raccoons have arrived says, can you suggest ways to stop avoiding and procrastinating? My God, there's tons and tons of books and literature on that and also on the internet. Just force yourself to do what you're afraid of doing and take a small step. You know, a lot of people procrastinate about doing term papers and wait till the last minute. I used to teach and go to graduate school. Well, just write one word, sit down for 5 minutes and get us started. Once you get over the initial hump of resistance, the inertia, things will start to fall into place. Check out Franklin is one of my faves. Okay, Chris O'Toole. Leanne says, helping others really helps me and being in nature. Numb is a movie with Matthew Perry about mental illness. Funny, but the truth about mental illness is a must-see movie. Okay, Numb. Anybody else see it besides Leanne about mental illness called Numb? That would be really cool. Zip Mover says, thanks again. I'm sorry about the moving of the screen. That will be corrected in the next video. I hope it's not too distracting. And I'm glad the voice and the sound is very good. That was a major problem I had the last time. And Richie says, what are your feelings about the success of exposure therapy? Exposure therapy means you expose yourself to the things that make you uncomfortable, like systematic desensitization. You're fearing snakes? Go look at a picture of a snake, and then sit in a room 100 feet from a snake, and then 50 feet, and then 10 feet, and gradually expose yourself to the situation that you're afraid of. It works most of the time. I know that some veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder, it makes things worse. I'm not an expert on exposure therapy, but I do know a lot of people use it, and I do know it has been very helpful. Laura Ruby says, any advice on how to deal with perfectionism leading to anxiety? It's hard as it's quite accepted in my university environment. You know, Laura Ruby, I'm going to make a video on perfectionism. It's amazing how you kind of read my mind because it really messes people up. Someone gives a beautiful speech, like I used to do public speaking. 100 people come up to them and say, it was amazing. One person says, well, you could have spoken a little louder here, and then all you can think about is the thing you didn't do. Perfectionism is a form of anxiety, and it can be quite detrimental and disabling. So yeah, there are cognitive behavioral ways to get over it, and also there are also medications. You know, I'm about to cough, so I got to grab some water here. Hold on. Again, sorry about the moving screen. Yeah. Thank you for the chat, says H.J. Flower. I'm upset with my therapist. Any advice? Yeah. Tell her you're upset. When in doubt, communicate. Honesty is the best policy. But do it using I statements. Just said, you know, when you made that comment, I felt hurt. You don't say, hey, you're a crummy therapist, I'm going to fire you. No. You take responsibility for your feelings and communicate in an effective way. There's something called nonviolent communication I'm going to be doing a video on, where you make an observation, like your mother might say, when I came in and saw the tennis balls on the floor, I felt annoyed because I have a need for order. Could you please put them away next time? That's how to use compassion communication to communicate your feelings and needs. So do the same with your therapist. I have a need for respect, whatever it was. Tell me what the therapist did to annoy you, and I'll help you coach you a little bit more. But talk it out with her. Be gentle, be kind, and take responsibility for your feelings. Uh, Kaber, hi there. I haven't seen you before. I'm suffering from bipolar disorder, and my meds are not working. What should I do? I feel hopeless. Kaber, there's about 7 or 8 different meds for bipolar disorder. There's lithium, and there's Topamax, and there's Depakote, and there's Geodon, and there's Lamictal, which is a really good one I recommend. If you haven't tried Lamictal, try that. Lamictal, Lamictal. And so, yeah, don't give up. Try different meds. There's so many of them, so don't feel hopeless. Work with your prescriber. Make sure you have somebody who's had experience in treating bipolar depression or bipolar disorder, because it's very different than treating depression. Oh, I finally figured out how to say something. Here, I'm going to type in the name of Lamictal. Let me see. Let me know if it comes out, guys. Lamictal, and then I'll hit send right here. Do you see that? I just spelled Lamictal, a very, very good mood stabilizer. So it's great that I can use this chat. IY says thank you. Leanne says, any advice on dealing with guilt from things I've done to people when I was being self-destructive? Yes, go to my video called Forgive Yourself for Your Mistakes, seriously. And read other books on forgiveness or read about it on the internet. You were doing the best you could at the time. You made a mistake. As Billy Joel would say, we're only human. It's normal to make mistakes, and you need to cut yourself some slack. But my video called Forgive Yourself for Your Mistakes is very powerful and popular. But there is so much good information about this. Books written by psychologists, therapists, you name it. Tyler Durbin says, I have a view of the world that everyone has an ulterior motive and that the world is a dark place. You can't trust anybody. Is this a product of reality or your mental illness? I would say it's your mental illness, but it's definitely a problem. It's a lens through which you see the world. It's your depression lens, seeing things dark. It's not really how the world is, because there's a lot of love and goodness in the world, and I've seen a lot of that too. So, I would say I wouldn't call it mental illness, but I would call it's a perspective that maybe needs shifting. I think it's a false perspective, because to only see the bad things is not to see reality as it is. Because the point is that life is a mixture of good and bad, light and dark. It's both and what you choose to focus on is going to basically determine your worldview. If it's a product of my mental illness, how do I see through that dark and stick cloud to say it's all me, and to say that it's all me? Go into therapy, take some medication perhaps. It's something you can work on. You can't do these things alone. So there's a story about a man who a traveler goes to a wise man and says, I'm coming to a new city. Uh, how are the people in the city that I'm going to? The wise man says, well, what were people like in the last city? Oh, they were awful. They were terrible. The wise man says, well, the new city that you're going to, the people are going to be just like that. A second man comes up and says, I'm going to this new city, same city. How am I going to like it? The wise man says, well, how were the people in the last city you lived in? Oh, they were wonderful. They were kind and they were good-hearted and they really helped me a lot. Well, the wise man says, that's what you'll find in the city that you're visiting right now. So our frame of reference, the lens through which we view the world, determines our reality and how we experience it. So unfortunately, people who are depressed see through, as they say in the Bible, see through a glass darkly. And that's what cognitive therapy tries to change, is how you see the world, because it's that lens that will determine your experience and your feelings. Anne Ritchie says, do you think it's important to forgive yourself even when the one you hurt will not forgive you? Absolutely. You're forgiving yourself for you, not for them. Again, none of us is perfect. We're all doing the best we could at the time that it occurred. We did the action. If we knew any better, we would do something differently. I made a really bad investment with some money I had. I have beaten myself up so much about that until just recently because the information I had said this was a good investment. At the time, I thought it was good. It wasn't. What can I do? At least I still have a roof over my head and gas in the car and food in the cupboards, right? Helen Loomis says, Lemus, I love your channel. I truly believe you are living through your calling in life as a counselor. Well, Helen, thank you so much. Um, I'm going to be starting something called a Patreon page pretty soon where people can support me through small donations to support this work I'm doing, not just here, but in the support groups I run, because I charge people very little money and no one's ever turned away for lack of funds. I see people on disability. I see people who are broke, who were coming out of the hospital. So it is my mission because I have suffered so much myself through all these years that I want to take what I've learned and share it with other people. Um, Kabir says I was on lithium, sodium valproate, and I think sodium valproate is Depakote. So yeah, you tried lithium and Depakote, they didn't help. There's Lamictal, I just spelled it out, and other things. Uh, yeah, so Tyler, if it's a product of your mental illness that you think the world is a bad place and people are bad, I would say therapy and medication. And look at some inspirational films. Go rent a video that shows the goodness in life. You know what you should do, Tyler? Go rent a movie which is considered one of the great films of all time called "It's a Wonderful Life." That is an amazing movie with Jimmy Stewart. It's shown every Christmas, and it shows a man who really thinks the world is a good place and acts on it and makes a huge difference in people's lives. The movie is called "It's a Wonderful Life." Kabir says thank you, and Kabir says you said amygdal. I don't know what that is. Oh, lamictal. I have it. I have it right here. I typed it in. Go look up the thing. Lamictal. What's a good way to avoid self-loathing? Says Whitney Rodney, Winston. Excuse me, Winston. Wow, that's one of the cardinal of the 9 symptoms of depression. That is one of the worst. Self-loathing. I have a video that I did called "Be Kind to Yourself." You want to look at that? Um, you got to kind of figure out where that self-loathing came from. Maybe somebody loathed you or didn't like you as a kid, and you just internalized their hatred of you to make it self-hatred. Then you have to do an exorcism and get that out of your system. Therapy, 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 and also start using affirmations like "I love myself" and "I'm a good person." And I have an exercise in a book called Words That Heal that shows you how to use those exercises, those affirmations, and whenever the junk comes up that refutes that, how to deal with it. So you gotta you gotta start loving yourself. You can use the loving kindness meditation. Go on the internet and look up loving kindness meditation and start saying that to yourself every day. Start looking at yourself in the mirror and say you care about yourself. And find people who can affirm your basic goodness because you are basically a good person, even if you don't think so. Um, Tyler says, I'll try it. I'm not quite sure what I said, but oh, you love that movie. You see it every Christmas. Yeah, Magda, isn't it? It's a Wonderful Life, an amazing film. Thank you so much for affirming what a great film is. Tell the people who are reviewing what a wonderful film It's a Wonderful Life is. It's absolutely phenomenal. I come away feeling I have such faith in humanity after I see that film. I felt so good about myself as a human being, and I have hope for the world after seeing It's a Wonderful Life. It is Jimmy Stewart who starred in it and Frank Capra who directed it. Both say it's their favorite movie they ever did, and Frank Capra has directed many movies. You should check out this Director, you should see a movie called "You Can't Take It With You." His movies are so uplifting, but all of his movies, It's a Wonderful Life was his favorite. Winston says, thanks for the advice about avoiding self-loathing. Yeah, well, there's lots of ways you can do that. Miss Sarah Agami says, good day, Dr. Douglas. Thank you for taking part of your time to listen to and help others. Well, call me doctor for sure. I always wanted to be a psychiatrist. It never worked out, but I do have a PhD in suffering, so I guess I am a doctor. Douglas Block, PhD, Suffering University. When did I graduate? Well, I'm still kind of doing my dissertation right now, so I don't know. Tell me when I can graduate, somebody. Okay, Anne, you're asking a lot of questions. That's cool. You experience an increase in mood when you bike. How do you motivate yourself to bike when you're in such a very low mode to start with? Another excellent question. I tell myself, Anne, if I can just get out the door and get on that bike, I'm going to feel so much better. And here's the other situation. I have friends come over to my house and say, Doug, we're waiting for you in the driveway. Come on, saddle up. So it really helps to have other people to exercise because they can motivate you when you can't motivate yourself. So exercise with other people. I remember during my first depression support group, I ran in 2001. What is that, 16 years ago? We had three gals who came, and they all lived within 6 blocks of each other. So they started a walking group, and every morning at 9 a.m., they got together and walked, a couple of miles, and they reinforced each other. Not a single one of them could have walked by themselves because they were too depressed. But when they got together as a threesome, everything shifted. So find someone to exercise with. If not, just tell yourself how much better you're going to feel. Also, take a class. Go to a class on, Zumba or some sort of aerobics class. That's a really good way to motivate yourself. Rayudu B says, I feel loss of energy and fatigued on a day-to-day basis. I am not able to go shopping places and any public places. There are lots of ups and downs in my mood. Yeah. Welcome to the world of depression, Rayudu. Welcome to my world. That's what happens when you're depressed. Love, sorry about this, this shaking of the screen there. That's what happens when you're depressed. You lose energy. Your energy's inconsistent. Some days I could get up and I'd feel like I could function. The other days I just pulled the covers over and that was it for the day. So until the depression is treated successfully, you're going to have those ups and downs. But don't give up because, as I tell everybody in my groups and everybody who writes me and emails me and comments, this too shall pass. Matter of fact, I'm going to type that right now because I love that saying so much. This too shall pass. Write that write that on a piece of paper and put it on your refrigerator and read it every day. This is the truth. Tyler says, how long have you been depressed for? Oh, Sir Cutthroat Aykroyd. Hey, nice to see you. I enjoyed your comments on my channel. So Tyler, I'm now 68 years old. My first episode came out when I was 18. Are there any mathematicians out there? I need help in subtracting 68 minus 18. Please tell me what the answer is. I'm joking, of course. I teach math. 50 years, 5 decades, a half a century, any way you want to put it. That's how long I've been dealing with depression. Whoopee! I live with that statement for years, says King Stephen. This too shall pass. So Cutthroat Alcoy says, do you have any tips for people who already experienced mood disorders or are coping with underemployment? I had a therapist who told me I also had a PhD in understanding emotions. Well, good for you. You're 5 steps ahead of me, Sir Cutthroat. Oh yeah, underemployment. I have a whole video. Why am I talking about my videos, Doug? Don't promote yourself so much. Anyway, I do have a video called The Role of Work and Healing from Depression. Employment is so important. You know what Sigmund Freud said? Does anybody know who Sigmund Freud is anymore? He only started the whole field of psychology and psychotherapy. The great psychiatrist Sigmund Freud. Someone said, what is your definition of mental health? He said, the best and the shortest definition of mental health I've ever heard. Mental health is the ability to love and to work. Let me repeat that. Mental health is the ability to love and to work and to love. So when we're not working, when we're not employed, when we're not feeling productive, our mental health suffers. So if you're underemployed, do some volunteer work. Do some work for free. Feel that you're making a difference with others, and your depression will lighten up a little bit. And even if you're not getting paid for it, you can still help out. Volunteer in a soup kitchen or the food bank or something like that. But yes, it's important that we have some sort of work, whether we're paid or not, to feel good about ourselves. And of course, love. I just did a video called The Number One Cause of Depression, which is loss of love. We can't live without it. We are hardwired for love. Kawan 2002 says, I have a fear of suicide. Any tips? It causes me to have a lot of anxiety. Yeah, it should. Suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you go to my channel, which you're on, and just put in the word suicide prevention, I recommend the video Alternatives to Suicide. Basically, what you tell yourself is that whatever pain you're in, you can cope with it and it will pass one day. And if you feel you're getting overwhelmed, call a friend, call the crisis line. And if you really feel you're unsafe, go to the hospital. But uh, I know suicide is a very scary thing. All of my depressions have been suicidal. But contact the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, be in a support group, be with a therapist, get people help, get treatment, and the suicide will diminish your feelings. But I have a whole bunch of videos. Basically, hang in there. This too shall pass. But yeah, it causes a lot of anxiety to have suicidal feelings. Believe me. Tyler says I've been feeling like I've been depressed almost all my life. Probably lack of friends. Yeah, 18 years for me too, and I'm 26. Well, you're only 26. That's the good news. Uh, Will Rogers once said life begins at 40. So 26 is pretty darn young. You have plenty of time to get help, change your life, and usually after 30 things start to really click into place. So don't give up. And again, if you go to my depression recovery channel, if you go to, I'll type in my URL here, www.healing from depression.com. If you type that in and go to that website, you will be taken to my, well, it didn't, oh yes it did, there it is, healingfromdepression.com. Yeah, I've got a lot of good tips on suicide prevention there. Basara says showing unconditional love to others and doing good for nothing to others increases lots of positive feelings. Absolutely. It's called Helper's High. Believe me, there's an article in Psychology Today written about it called Helper's High. I have no plans but have thoughts of death. That's called suicidal ideation. It's great you don't have any plans. When you have thoughts of death, to shift your focus to something else. Put on some music. Jump up and down 10 times. And shift your energy, and you can redirect your thoughts. JK says the thing holding up suicide for me is holding up from movies and media indulgence. Whatever it takes to look forward to something. We're coming to the end to our chat here. I do want to remind you 32 people who are watching that I will be doing this again at 11 a.m. Pacific time on Wednesday with a more stable laptop. From 11 to 12, that's from 3 to 4 East Coast time, from 8 to 9 British time. I have no idea what time it is in India. Right now it's probably, 19 hours? So, yeah, it's probably in the 7 in the morning or something. Oh, well. Maybe I'll do some ones at 5 a.m. my time so the people in India and Asia can see this live. Dorothy says another brilliant movie is To Kill a Mockingbird. A great quote from the movie is, "You never really understand a person until you climb into his skin and walk around." That is a famous quote from a very, very famous movie, from a very, very famous book. Recommended to everybody. JK says, yes, you do the same. Make sure I'm living towards goals. Yeah, that's really cool. Nice work. Sir Cuthbert Ackroyd says, thanks, Douglas. Very helpful and doable advice. Your help has been invaluable. I can't thank you enough. Maybe I can give some money at a future date. Well, I am starting a channel called Patreon. You can also go to my send me money through PayPal, douglasblog@gmail.com. But yeah, I'll be telling you about my fundraising on my page called Patreon in a month or so. Is it natural to be afraid of feeling better? Says it move? Yeah, some people are getting better scary because they don't know anything else except feeling poorly. Sorry again for the shaking. So we've been on for exactly 50 minutes. I'm about to go take a bike ride. Does homeopathy work for anxiety and panic attacks? It does for some people, not for others. It's very tricky. Homeopathy is a very difficult thing to do and to master. I studied it in naturopathic school, so try it out. You have nothing to lose. Thank you for your help and support and time, says Magda. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you for being here. I love you all. Great movie is Mass, starring Cher, 1985 movie. Thank you so much for everybody for being here, for your comments, for your questions, for your support. I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday or hearing from you. In the meantime, please go to my channel, YouTube channel, and make any comments you want on any of these videos or my other videos. I answer everybody's emails. I answer everybody's comments. I don't believe in prayer, but thank you, Doug. Yes, thank you all for being here. And again, anytime you email me, douglasblock@gmail.com, I will answer your email and I will answer your comments. God bless you all and have a wonderful day. See you later.